As we look forward to a rebound here in Tampa Bay, we want to make sure you have the resources to navigate through this tough time. And today we're going to talk about resourcefulness, the people who are weathering this storm with positivity, creativity, and resilience. I'm James Tully with ABC Action News, and this is the Rebound Tampa Bay podcast. This is our first episode, and I reached out to one of my closest colleagues to get this conversation going, my co-anchor, Deiah Riley. Hey, listen, never doubt the power of the human spirit. And to coin one of your phrases, ain't that the truth?
Oh my gosh, this has been, I had talked to friends who talked about, of course, there's the tragedy surrounding everything that we're dealing with. Of course, there are people who have lost their lives, their family members who are struggling and they're hurting. And our hearts go out to all those families and everybody who's having a hard time right now.
Absolutely.
I talked to so many people, though, who've talked about how this is just making us appreciate what matters most to us. That's the people that we love and our health. And after this, so many of us will never, ever take that for granted anymore. I mean, this has been, I don't think, none of us have ever lived through anything like this at all in our lives.
No.
You know, just the fact that we've all been forced to just stop and just slow down. You know, so this is the first time for so many of us just to sit down and have a breather, and to pay attention to what's most important to us.
Well, you've done a really good job. You know, our relationship has grown so much in the last several years working together. And now with this, we've really had to put our heads together to come up with some kind of inventive ways to still do what we do on a regular basis. And, I look to you for a lot of this, for ideas of what we can bring to the show. And I got to give you a ton of credit, Deiah. You came up with the Let Me Brag on Your Kids segment. And I got to say, you said the response you were getting from that was just tremendous because people are home with their kids. and we get these really great stories of these kids doing amazing things, having such big hearts and doing just incredible stuff while they're stuck at home. Maybe not even fully, understanding what is going on.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I thought about doing that. This was long even before the pandemic began. But then after we were all forced to, adhere to the the safer-at-home orders, I thought, what better time to do that? Because kids are at home right now. Mm-hmm. They're bored half crazy. They're finishing their schoolwork in 3-4 hours. And so they're bored to death. And so a lot of them are beginning to showcase their talents. They're doing trying things that they haven't tried before. And parents are like, wait a minute, hold on, I didn't know you could do that. Or let me see more of that, because we're all running, 90 miles a minute, usually during the school year, because we've got work and school. And so now we're slowing down and we're getting a chance to see things that we haven't seen before. One of my first pieces that I did, the whole Let Me Brag on Your Kids, she's the daughter of a really close friend of mine. I didn't even know she could draw. I didn't know that she was that talented. I see this child on a regular basis. I kid you not. I see her at least twice a week at volleyball practice. I had no idea that she was that talented. Her mom knew that she could draw, but she didn't know that she was as good as she really was because she would doodle here and there. But now that she's got all this time, she started out drawing on the sidewalk. And her drawings are amazing. This girl's 12 years old. Her drawings are incredible. People in her neighborhood started coming out and they wanted her to do more of the sidewalk chalk art. And she's amazing. I just saw the other day, her mom said, because they're stuck at home, they've got 4 kids, but they're stuck at home. So her mom said, you know what? You're so talented. Go ahead. If you want to paint your room, you want to do a mural in your bedroom, go ahead and do that. So this child, she does a lot of character art, like Disney, things like that. She is so talented. She's so amazing. And so, she's doing this huge mural in her bedroom and it's beautiful. I mean, it's fantastic. I got another family who has a daughter. She's 18 years old. Mm-hmm. She is an amazing artist. She's got a full ride to Ringling School of Art and Design in Sarasota. She's a senior this year. We talked about how, unfortunately, she's missing out on so much. She can't go to prom. She won't get to really finish her senior year, because she's at home. The, school term has ended for these kids. They're not going to go back to school, but her future is set.
Oh, wow.
The end of her year is uncertain, but her future is set because she's so talented. She's going off on a full ride to, Ringling School of Art and Design.
Well, you turned that story for us, and her artwork is just incredible. The mind behind her designs, it's so original and it's so vivid and colorful and beautiful works. It's amazing. It really was. It
There's
was
so
great.
many kids like that too. I'm finding there's so many kids that just have so much talent. And you know what? And I don't even care. I don't care what they're doing. If they're doing wonderful stuff, if they're, if they're going shopping for a neighbor, if they're
Yeah.
going by to ride their bike and knock on a neighbor's door and stand across the street to say hello,
Mhm.
I don't care. Kids are rising to the occasion, and they're showing a lot of adults, kindness, and they're showing that we need to proceed with kindness and love and patience. And I just appreciate
Well,
that,
let's move towards the adults a little bit because you had a real gem today as we record this podcast here in late April. And you had a guy who has a career as a showman. And now
Yeah.
he can't do that. So he's making his rounds around the neighborhood and just putting all kinds of smiles on kids' faces.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing. His name is Blaze Rindies. He's 18 years old. He performed on America's Got Talent a few years ago. And actually, he is one of the performers that we'll see at the Super Bowl when it's in Tampa. He was approved to be a performer. So I don't know where he's going to be halftime or the beginning of the show. Who
Oh,
knows?
that's
But he's going to
great.
be a performer at the Super Bowl. It's amazing. He performs at large events all over the Bay Area. In Orlando, his family's looking at getting him a theater in Orlando. He's just that good.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got a show that he does. It's called Spheres. And so what he did instead was, since he can't do his show anymore, he decided to put on a bubble parade for kids in the neighborhood where he grew up. And so he would roll through with this big contraption to do these bubbles. I'm not talking about the kids' bubbles that we grew
No, I
up
was
with.
gonna say, if you
the
told
little
me,
bottle that
if
we
you
grew
were
up
like,
with. Yeah.
if you're like JT, do a bubble parade, I'd be like, okay, and I get one of those little bottles and I just be blowing a little out. No, this guy had a giant net that he's casting in this stuff and just
Oh my God.
waving it and the giant bubbles.
Huge bubbles that you could like envelop an entire person in, just humongous bubbles. And as he's rolling through his neighborhood, he's like the Pied Piper of bubbles. Kids are like running out
They were
into
into
the
it.
driveways of the street to see it.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I mean, it was just amazing. So it was just something uplifting. The parents were standing back, they were watching the kids, but they had such a good time. And it was just, nobody in the road because it was just the kids, nobody in the neighborhood, just the kids out running, catching these bubbles. It was beautiful. It was fantastic.
Deiah, what would you say are some of the things that has inspired you the most with what you've seen since the pandemic began?
Wow. You know what? I just think I think people are paying attention to the fact that everybody's stressed, everybody's anxious, everybody's nervous, and people are being more patient, I think. And that's inspiring for me. Even in the grocery stores, yeah, you'll see somebody here and there, who's a little tense, but I think people around them are noticing that, and they're just being more patient. I think before we would hear all kinds of cases of road rage because people were just, so bent up. But now people are just kind of taking a step back and realizing, you know what, if this person is acting out, I understand maybe there's something going on in their home life, so I'm not going to react. I just think people are just responding with patience
Mm-hmm.
and empathy, and I just appreciate that. That inspires me.
I agree with you. I can only speak for what I see in my neighborhood, as I'm sure you can as well. I do see this calmness, this patience with people, and we're well over a month into this thing. And, it's one of those, it's a very, very tough situation, not just for what we're all dealing with and our restrictions and everything, but this was nobody's fault. It was nobody's fault.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
I think that's the hardest pill to swallow for so many families. But I have seen that. I would agree with you. I can echo that. I completely have seen a patience with many, many people. And the few times I've gone out and about and actually left my neighborhood, it's been impressive. It really has been.
Also generosity. I mean, I'm seeing so many people, so many different neighborhoods that are coming together to donate food, to make sure that food banks have it, to check on their neighbors, people that you wouldn't, have even talked to before. We're coming together in those ways. And I think that it's just beautiful. We've got an extra neighbor who we've been friends with them for a while, but when we were first on the whole safer at home orders, he stopped by just to say, hey, I'm headed to the grocery store. Is there anything that you need? Well, my husband, seriously, it's like he does like doomsday stocking. Our pantry is stocked. We have toilet paper. We have paper towels. We have canned goods.
I know your husband well,
But,
and this does not surprise me at all. Not one bit.
Seriously, he's like methodical. So anyway,
Oh, just be happy I didn't show up at your back door when all this started. Knowing it'd be a safe place to stay.
Oh, God. we would have had plenty. We would have had plenty. But the neighbor says to us, I'm going to the grocery store. Do you need anything? So my husband jokingly says, yeah, if you find some toilet paper, let me know. A couple of hours later, I happen to hear the doorbell ring. I walk out. There's nobody out there, but I can see something, a big package. And I open the door. There's a big roll of toilet paper, and it says, "Love your friend, the masked derrière." I just thought that was so funny, so
it's
sweet,
cute,
and just so thoughtful.
It's cute. It's cute. I say it ad nauseum, but we've definitely been through, you and I together on the desk for Good Morning Tampa Bay. We certainly have gone through how we've rebounded from certain serious situations. Of course, the one that comes to mind is Irma. And although the Bay Area particularly wasn't impacted very heavily, parts of our viewing area was. And, you say it, I say it. It oftentimes it does bring out the best in people. When your backs are up against the wall, it never really seems to surprise me anymore. It really does. You see the best parts of many, many people when this stuff happens.
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. Especially here in the Bay Area. I mean, people respond in ways that just warm your heart. I mean, they just rise to the occasion. They don't waste a beat. They come right out when someone needs help. They come right out. I think for us, because we're so used to dealing with hurricanes and and bad weather here, that we respond, I think, a little bit more quickly. When it comes to situations like this, because it's like we've gotten used to it. I hate to say that, but we've gotten used to it. We've gotten prepared for it. We're better prepared for it, I think.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I guess the term our chief meteorologist, Dennis Phillips, uses, I've heard our meteorologist in the morning, Greg D., our great friend Greg, has said, is the price you pay to live in paradise, preparing for the hurricane season and everything else. And a lot of people just have that attitude. It's not a flippant one. It's just like, well, we'll be ready with whatever comes. We're not ready. We're not just going to fly out of here. No, we'll batten down and deal with it. And it is that attitude does seem to carry over, and maybe has carried over during this pandemic we're all facing. That's a very interesting point, Deiah. Very interesting point.
Yeah, they always say, we prepare for the worst, but we hope for the
always.
best. And that's always our attitude in the Bay Area. And so we respond in kind,
Well, besides the masked derriere, what are some of the best things that you have heard people say to you or to anybody during this situation?
Oh my gosh. Even if I go out to Costco, it was so funny. I went out, first time I had my mask on, I could barely breathe in the thing. But anyway, I had it on and I'm walking through and it's like covering my face. Sure. And so my husband is looking at me and I didn't have any makeup on at all. I didn't do my hair because I'm thinking nobody's going to see who I am. I've got this mask and nobody even notices me. So I'm walking around and I hear someone say to me, I know who you are. Thank you so much for what you do. And I'm looking around and I'm like, is she talking to me? Sure enough, it was a lady who said, I watch every day. And I was like, how do you even know it's me? My face is hidden. But I just thought that was so sweet for her to say thank you for what you do. And you and I, we always agree. We don't feel like we're doing anything. I mean, we're just doing our jobs. Yeah, it's our job to keep people informed and to make sure that they stay safe. But that's our job. And so to have somebody say thank you for that, oh my gosh, I took my, just kind of pulled it down so she could see me. But
that's so sweet.
But man, it made me feel so good. It really did.
Yeah, that's excellent. We debriefed a couple of times right after everything at our station started to change, and we were, of course, following the social distancing guidelines. And then you and I both realized you weren't going to be coming into the studio for a while. I would be the only one manning the fort. And I think we had talked about, well, what do we do right now? And you bounced something off me like, well, start giving people a platform. And that resonated with me. And I thought, you're exactly right. I called nonprofits I had worked closely with. I called people I had done other stories with. I called animal shelters. I have a close tie to them with all the work I do and volunteer work. And I just started asking people, what do you want to tell the public right now? What's going on? What do you need? What are you doing? And I will tell you, more people were doing things than needed things. More people wanted to tell me they were doing something to help people than actually asking for the help, which I was surprised by, but inspired by when I heard that.
I find the same thing. I've got a story tomorrow on Tampa Bay Harvest. They're feeding people. They do it every Wednesday. And they give food, huge boxes of food, meat and produce and bread. It's no questions asked. You just pull up and they load these boxes into your cars. They have gotten donations from, from people, restaurants, from grocery stores. They don't reveal who they get their donations from, but they had 30,000 pounds of food last Wednesday that they gave away. Again, no questions asked. And they just want to help people. And then I've got another one, Our Daily Bread, who they're also feeding people. There's a florist who is making these designer masks basically, and she's selling them on her website. I'll have to post the website at some point, but of course there are people who are giving away masks, but she's making these and she's selling these because she's giving 100% of her proceeds to Our Daily Bread, which is a charity that feeds people in need. And so, just things like that, I mean, of course, if you cannot afford a mask, she'll give you a
Of course.
mask. But for people who can afford to make a donation, 100% of these proceeds go to Our Daily Bread. I mean, it's things like that that I think are just amazing and just, so generous of
It's
people.
truly awesome. I put a couple honorable mentions of things I've discovered. I got a call and a tip that the Black Rock Bar and Grill, which has locations in Brandon and Carrollwood in our viewing area here, I got word that they were giving away free meals. This is, of course, probably as you mentioned, this is unprecedented for all of us. This is probably the most difficult time we're ever going to see restaurants go through in our
Oh,
lifetimes. I
yeah.
have a hard time thinking of anything that would be more difficult. Here's somebody, an owner who somehow wrangled 35 to $40,000 in corporate funding from his corporate partners and is giving away free meals every single day, lunch and dinner, and then he's triaging meals to healthcare workers. And the last thing he said to me in the interview really stuck with me, and he said, at times like this, what I have seen is people don't really need everything they think they do. They just need each other.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's the best. That's the best thing I've heard all
It
day. That's true.
it was so humbling, but at the same time, it gave me a
Yeah.
really good feeling. I told you about the animal shelters who were donating supplies. They were donating gloves and masks that they had, which I found just again incredibly generous. And just the service industry as a whole, how they're fighting and clawing to stay alive. The Kimberly Home Pregnancy Center, they are still, despite the social distancing guidelines, despite having to close down some of their main sources of funding, they're still helping young mothers who just given birth at their pregnancy center. They're making it work. They're still doing it without funding right now.
Sometimes just knowing somebody is there to help you if you need
Mhm.
it, can mean so much to you. Can take a lot of the anxiety and stress off you. Just knowing somebody is there. Somebody, you've got a safety
You do.
net.
You have a safety net. Well, let me ask you a couple of things about how you're doing before I let you go today. How
Aw,
are things with you and your new
every
normal?
It is, at first, it was a little different for us because, as you know, we were a family always on the go. I mean, both my girls play competitive volleyball. So every single weekend, we were at a tournament or we were at some type of practice.
Oh yeah.
We were on the go every weekend. We just, we rarely stayed at home. We were always on the go. So we had to cancel our season. And so a lot of the tournaments were just done. My youngest, her team was ranked very, very high. I think number five in the state. So, there were high hopes for them in terms of the state championship. And all of a sudden, it was over. So these girls were just devastated. But we kept telling them, you have to remember, this is really serious. This is before we really realized how serious it was. But we kept telling them, this is serious. And for your school to be shut down and for your season to be canceled, this is serious. You need to just take a minute and just kind of slow down. So at first, they had a hard time adjusting to it. I mean, they had a really hard time, but now they found ways to connect to their teammates. They
Mhm.
do Zoom chats on a regular basis. I remember the first time they had a Zoom party. My youngest was like, "What are we supposed to do? Just stare at each other the whole time?" I was like, "I don't know. Just figure it out." It started at 1 o'clock. At 6 o'clock, I had to go in and tell them, "Okay, it's about time for you guys to get off and come eat dinner." They did not want to get off. They had the best time. They were playing on their phones while they were on their computer, playing games
Mhm.
together. They had the best time. So, so we're finding ways to connect. I had a teleconference, a Zoom conference with the girls' teachers yesterday. And one of the first questions that, both homeroom teachers asked me was how are the girls connecting with their friends? That's really important. The teachers wanted to know how the girls were doing, how are they connecting, have they found ways to connect to their friends? Because as we know, our kids are social. They're social beings. They feed off each other. It's really important for them to have that interaction, that social connection. And so I mentioned the Zoom chats and the Zoom parties. They had a Zoom birthday party, and I talked about that. And the homeroom teachers loved it. And they suggested, one of them said, you know what? I'm going to suggest that for my homeroom. Sometime next week, maybe we can do a homeroom chat, because when the kids are doing their Zoom studies, they don't get to talk. They have to listen, and if they have a question, they're still in school, but they're missing that interaction. So the homeroom teacher suggested, you know what? I think I'm just going to have a homeroom Zoom party and get these kids together.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't last 6 hours, though. It doesn't need to last 6 hours, No.
No. 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
That's tops. That's good. I asked you shortly after this started, I said, in your wildest dreams, did you ever think in your long, illustrious career as a journalist, Deiah, that you would be in your guest bedroom anchoring the news for 4 hours every single morning?
Oh my gosh, no, not at all.
So
no.
real quick, the backstory is for those of you listening. So I'm in studio. Deiah is remote. She is at home in her guest room. Greg D, our meteorologist, he is remote at home. Sarah Finney, our traffic anchor, she is remote at home. How we get this to all come together is a testament to the skill of our staff and where technology is in 2020. Thank goodness for that. But
oh my gosh, it's been amazing. I've had people text me to say, your product looks so good. You guys should be so proud of yourselves. I can't see it because I don't have that monitor, so that I can't see the playback. Yeah. But you're there in the studio, and you've mentioned too that it looks really good, that the show looks really good.
I let you know every morning that you look great. And you got your lighting figured out in that room. I know you've changed a few aesthetics behind you. I noticed some changes at the first couple of days. Deiah moved some candles around, put some really nice stuff behind. But no, it's good. It really is. And where we are, you and I, we MacGyvered our prompter situation, got that worked out, doing something we never thought we would, where we basically FaceTime an iPad and put it in front of the prompter so you can see it in real time. And
oh my gosh, you were amazing with that. I have to tell you why we had to do that, because there was a delay in terms of when I would speak and what would go over the air.
Yes.
And so at one point it got down to about 10 seconds, 15 seconds. And so my teleprompter was not keeping up, and it just was not working. So James he came up with this idea. You know what? I'm going to take the iPad, sit it in front of the teleprompter. That way you can see it in real time. It completely changed how I did my job. Oh my gosh. I told him, I was like, I'm going to nominate you for a huge prize.
It's okay. I don't need the parking space. I'm okay. I'm just happy I'm happy we got the flow going, but it really is interesting. You never ever thought you'd be doing this. Never.
You know what? I can tell you this. We have a home office, but my husband works from home. So that office is actually put to use. It's been put to use for 17 years that we've been in this house. So I have always been in studio. I haven't had a need for an office. I've got a desk in my bedroom, but it's just a really pretty desk where, you don't do anything from there. And of course I can't broadcast from my bedroom. Right. So when I had to move into the guest bedroom, I didn't have anything. I mean, this is the room where this is my parents' room when they come and spend time with us. And so this is a bedroom. There is no desk in here. So I had to create a desk. I've got my laptop sitting in front of me right now, but my laptop is on top of a piano bench. It's basically a keyboard bench where my kids learn to play piano. And then that little keyboard bench is on top of a plastic storage bin. So it gives it some height. I've got another storage bin over here that I use kind of as a little table to keep my coffee cup on and my cell phone on. It's crazy. And then I've got a chair in front of me that has a monitor in front of it, because my laptop, my little tablet, is so small, it's hard to keep up with in terms of all the scripts. It's you should
it's like your own personal yard sale you've got there, and like you're setting up
it is. It's a hodgepodge of all kinds of junk put together to make it work.
Well, we're doing it, and I think we're both we're in it to do it as long as necessary, and like so many other people, we've adjusted and we've been able to do what we can. I want to leave you with this, Deiah, and thank you so much for making a little bit of time, as if you don't have to spend enough time with me, even virtually every morning. You agree to come on this podcast I'm doing.
This is fun.
This is fun.
Oh my gosh, this is fun.
So my brother, of all people, and just a little bit of backstory about my brother, the complete opposite from me. Opposite in the way he looks at a lot of things politically and a lot of things, just the way he sees the world. But after this started, he said, do you think there's any scenario in which we're all better coming out of this? And it was hard to think like that when this first started happening and all of the restrictions came down. And it got me thinking, and I want to try and answer that, and I'll give you the floor. I think there is absolutely a way. And we just tried for the last 25 minutes to highlight all the ways that we've seen people are better. But, learning that it's important to wash your hands a lot and understanding who you come in contact with, and maybe you shouldn't be really close to everybody you meet, and maybe handshakes weren't necessarily the best thing that we should have always been doing, and being more health conscious and everything else, maybe as a whole, brings infectious diseases down. And you know what, Deiah? I'm okay with getting sick less because I don't like getting sick. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't either. For me, I think... for me, it's all about family. Mm-hmm. I think we'll come out of it closer as families, closer as neighbors and friends, appreciating what is most important to us, our health, our life, the people that we love, our faith. I think that we're going to come out of this much stronger in that sense. Also, I think businesses will evolve because of this too. Businesses will see, for working parents, you can do this. You can be productive, staying at home, working from home, working with kids, working with your kids around. I think that's going to change the model for a number of businesses and how they do business. It's going to change, how working women are able to get back into the workforce after they have children.
Great point.
For so long, they haven't been able, to, they haven't felt comfortable saying, you know what, I'm going to leave my kids and go back into the workforce. But I think this is going to change all of that. I think it's going to, change the business models for so many different industries.
Well, let me ask you one last thing. And I promise this is the very last thing. But you mentioned earlier, you are a family on the go. And I know that your husband works from home, but even so, he's in meetings and doing all kinds of things. The girls, they have volleyball and they play all kinds of different sports. And then you have these overnight hours with me. So you guys, don't come together as a family that often during the course of a week, really a few precious hours. That's all changed. How has your family dynamic changed since this has started?
We spend more time together as a family. We cook. Oh my goodness. We have been cooking so much, and it's been so much fun. I mean, just trying new things. We cooked, a decent amount before this. During the week, we kind of had our menu where we would have meatless Mondays, and it was always easy to go to with
you do realize like I know your entire menu. You know this, right?
Yeah, exactly, because it was easy.
No, because in the morning, JT, what do you think if I make this tonight? What do you think? I think I might do. I'm thinking chili tonight. What do you think about chili? And I'm like, well, I can find you a good recipe. Hey, can you print that out for me? Of course I can. How do you like this one? That's great. I'm going to make it.
Exactly. I always wanted to go for what would be easy, what the kids were going to eat, and what would last. But now we've gotten creative. We cook a whole lot more together as a family. We just do a lot more things together as a family. My husband and I will take time just to have a glass of wine at night and to watch movies. I get a chance now to sit back and read, to sit back and actually finish a book, in record time, as opposed to, okay, I'm going to read, one chapter tonight, one chapter tomorrow. I have time now to sit back and read. It's just been really nice.
That's good.
Just to sit back with my kids. We watched a movie the other day. I fell asleep on it, but we watched a movie the other day as a family.
Right.
It's really, really nice. And not to feel like, oh my gosh, not to feel guilty about sitting down and just doing nothing. That's always been an issue for me. When I did have downtime, I always felt guilty for not doing anything. But now I don't, I don't. And I love that. I'm enjoying this.
Well, you had a long morning anchoring Good Morning Tampa Bay as you do with me every Monday through Friday on ABC Action News. And you even gave me another hour doing this. So please sit down and do nothing for a little bit, Deiah. You earned it.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thanks for coming on. Please subscribe to the Rebound Tampa Bay podcast on Apple and Stitcher. And know that ABC Action News now and when we start to rebound here in Tampa Bay, there are steps you can take to find help for your family. Visit abcactionnews.com/rebound. I'm James Tully. Thanks for listening.